Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our fourth and very special episode of QuickBooks Labs. QuickBooks Labs, a fortnight podcast designed to be the place to learn all about the world of QuickBooks and other accounting software. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Patrick, a chartered accountant, QuickBooks certified trainer, and the owner of an accounting firm called Boffix. And join me as my co-host, the one and only Ash. How's it going, Ash?
Oh, great. Thanks, Aaron. My name's Ash. I'm an experienced bookkeeper / accountant, QuickBooks trainer. I've been helping Intuit train accountants, business owners since 2014. Also recently moved into app development and recently developed NetTracker, fixed assets for QuickBooks Online. So, back over to you, Aaron.
Brilliant. Okay, so how does this work? I hear you all ask. Well, first of all, we are live to the nation at our regular time of 4 p.m. on a Tuesday on a fortnightly schedule. So if you're listening back to this at any other time, why not consider coming to join us live? That way you can get involved with the show and ask us all of your burning questions in the chat box. The reason it's so important and the reason it gives you the opportunity is there's people like Closet Geek at the moment who's sitting in the chat waiting to ask us the questions. So think about coming along 4 p.m. on a Tuesday and gives us the opportunity to answer your questions. Furthermore, we're now live on podcasting services around the globe, so feel free to subscribe on our podcasting service of choice. Ash, what's on the agenda for today's show?
So for today, can't wait, Aaron, can't wait. So you will be giving us a little bit of news, some up-and-coming features that we can have a little chat about. And we have a very special guest with us. We've got Rowan from Apps Advisory Plus. In fact, do we want to bring up Rowan on now so we can just have a quick hello and he can sort of chip in, with our general chat as you're just going through the news?
Hi, Aaron. Hi, Ash. Great to be here. Thanks very much for inviting us onto the show. I'm looking forward to talking all about apps and app advisory later on. Cheers,
Rowan. Thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Okay, also we've got a bit of news that's happening at the moment, and actually, for once, we've got some news that's quite timely because the news today, or the news we're about to talk about, got released this morning. So QuickBooks have gone through quite a bit of a schedule at the moment, and what they're doing is they're bringing in their product releases on a quarterly basis. So I don't know if you remember from the very first episode we did, but we talked about the September release, or the spring release, should I say. And the idea of the spring release was it was giving us a load of information about what to expect coming up. Now, from today, they've released their summer product release schedule. So we're going to have a little bit of a look and see if there's anything in there that takes our interest. The first part of it in their summer release is their cash flow section. So within here, we're talking about how they've got that 90-day cash flow forecast, which we already seen. We've already had a play around. In fact, that was from the first episode. But one thing that is interesting is they have some new bank connections coming their way. So they're looking at TransferWise and Metal. And also, I know from speaking to QuickBooks and speaking to some of the advisors that there is actually going to be some better connections to existing accounts as well. So that could only be a good thing, couldn't it?
Definitely, Aaron. I mean, but have they? Is the cash flow forecast itself going to be improved a little bit? That's my burning question. Or is it still the basic sort of review? I like a good old-fashioned table forecast myself.
Shots fired there from Ash. Yeah, I mean they've got to be improvements, haven't they? It definitely is something that was sent out as it is, and we're happy that there's the solutions actually there, but there's definitely got to be some other ones on the way. So, you know, that the fact that they've put it into the summer product release, to me, gives me indication there's got to be other bits they're working on. Otherwise, they would have just not put it in at all, and then we would have kind of just been left with how it was. So I'm confident there's going to be some improvements, and hopefully based on some of the feedback we've already given them.
Yeah, cool.
Brilliant. The next one is payments. So the exciting bit here for me is, yes, we've got they're reiterating the fact they've got the special rates for payment. So just so if you're not aware of this, if you send the Pay Now button on QuickBooks, it goes via PayPal. And originally, when it was first announced, it was just using PayPal's original fees. What happened between QuickBooks and PayPal is they've come to an agreement, and now we have some preferential fees that can get sent if you use the Pay Now button in QuickBooks. That's great, and that's something I know a lot of clients are starting to utilize there. A lot of people I speak to find that a really useful feature. But the interesting bit is the iZettle integration. Now, when iZettle was acquired by PayPal, I want to say about a year ago now, the first thing that I definitely brought up at that point, or was excited about at that point, was this idea that we can then start thinking about the fact that there's going to be that iZettle integration, or at least it was a potential for it. And I think this is going to be huge, because there's so many clients out there that have iZettle. And for anyone who doesn't know quite what iZettle's for, it's for an EPOS solution. So think about if you're going to go and have a till system, this can be a really simple way of you being able to accept contactless or card payments just by using this iZettle solution. And this is what it's all about. The fact that when you can then buy or sell, when you sell something through this EPOS system, the idea that it can integrate and somehow get yourself directly into QuickBooks, we've not seen how that's going to work yet. But the way that could be a way of doing it is quite exciting. What do you think to that one?
That sounds very. I'm very interested in that. Now, with the iZettle, will you need other equipment as opposed as or just the QuickBooks software or the mobile phone app? Will we need to have any card readers or anything like that, or tills to link in, or is it how do you think that's going to work?
Yeah, you'll definitely need a mobile phone as a bare minimum. So the mobile phone, and then they also give you a actual card reader. Now, part of this agreement between QuickBooks and PayPal and QuickBooks iZettle is they're going to give you preferential price on the card reader. So from memory, I think it was it says somewhere around here. Yeah, so it should be £59 for the card reader, but you're going to have the opportunity to get it from £19 if you go through QuickBooks themselves. So that gives an indication that there's still going to be these preferential rates, these preferential ways of being able to have that integration. And more than anything, once you've got that card reader, you can use your phone if you're out and about, say, you're out actually on the road or whatever it's going to be. Most people, though, tend to use an iPad and they have that as their point of sale and go from there. And it just gives kind of a really nice way for the smallest of small clients to have a really sophisticated EPOS system. So we've installed it in quite a few small cafes, things like that. But especially during COVID, the power that they can get from that of going, you know what, actually, we're selling quite a lot of this item, or we're selling quite a lot of that item, and you've got that opportunity to have those conversations, and that's been really powerful. So the fact that they can give you that, I think, is going to be quite a big thing going forward.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I mean, even 40 quid on the saving of the device is not bad. I'd just be interested to know what those actual transaction fees are going to be. So that's going to be the thing that people, that's what I'll be drilling down into finding out, because one thing is finding out, that's great, I've saved £40 on a card reader, but all of a sudden when the transaction comes through, if you're sort of £5 out of pocket, less than what you'd expect it to be, then that's what we just need to find out to begin with. Rowan, do you have much? Have you sort of dabbled much with the iZettle?
Well, when I was in practice, this was an area that QuickBooks were a bit behind on, to be honest. And they're now obviously catching up with these integrations. I've not specifically used the iZettle one because at the time wasn't available, but GoodTill was one that I'd looked at before for POS and QuickBooks Online, and their integration is really good. I think the iZettle integration, looking at it a while ago, maybe it's a one invoice a day type of job rather than every transaction, which is actually is probably better that way for the type of businesses that we're looking at that would probably use the iZettle integration.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. And I think when it comes to, we'll go through the other summer ones, but I think that's going to be one of the exciting ones in terms of, like you said, just kind of giving it for extra bits for clients. So the next one is automation. So really they're just pushing more the capturing of bills and receipts. So if you remember, we kind of showed this, I want to say last week or maybe last QuickBooks Lab or maybe the time before, but we showed how now it's not just the receipt capture, so expense capture that you could do. You now have the opportunity to put bills in there. Again, the fact that they're kind of highlighting it for the summer product release, there's one or two things there. Either the bill kind of adaptation was never meant for the spring release, or this could mean the fact that they have some extra bits that they're expecting to see on there. And that's kind of, for me, the bit, because again, there's definitely things out there that could do with a bit of kind of improvements. There are some things on there that doesn't quite work as intended. So the fact that it's still in their product lineup in terms of their summer release could be a good thing.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the things in there is that at the moment, if you just scan the receipt and it's been copied into a bill, when you come to review it from within the receipt capture area, you can't split that at the moment to different categories. It'd be a case of actually having to process the bill and then going into the bill afterwards and editing it. Whereas I think I've seen on a Canadian Facebook forum that someone had asked a similar question actually, and someone hinted that it may, that could be a future release. So if that does come through, it would be, very much beneficial. And also, there's no credit note feature in there either, so it'd be handy to be able to upload a credit note.
Yeah,
I think when I had a look at that, actually, there's a few things that they need to do in terms of improving the integration with the existing QuickBooks system. The products and services, I think, wasn't one that was available potentially.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are definitely things that they need to do there. The actual system, when I tried it, looked like it worked very well, though.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the one thing they've got to figure out, and I'm sure they're looking at it, is discoverability as well, because we can get stuff sent in from clients. We've got no idea it's there unless you physically go into the part of the app and have a look at it there. So fingers crossed that's something that's going to come through and the fact it's on the summer product release is good. Now, this one was a surprise to me. I don't know if you knew about this or not, Ash, but they're looking to bring in the employee portal to the standard payroll as well, which is great news. Really, really excited about that. But that one was a bit of a shock to me because I thought that was the advantage of having the advanced payroll. But we'll discuss that in a moment. Then I chuckled to myself when I saw this. So the automatic tax code updates for payroll. I've recently moved from one payroll provider to QuickBooks, and I must admit I completely forgot this wasn't even a feature already there. So I have to actually go and make sure I've done my payrolls correctly, because I was assuming they were being updated as they went along. New pension automation that they've been talking about for a while, and track employees with T-sheets. They're definitely going to be pushing T-sheets a lot at the moment. We're going to see a lot more kind of information about T-sheets come in. And then transfer to standard payroll at any time. I'm not sure how that's a new feature, but yeah, the opportunity is there. So, Ash, what do you think about the, especially that portal question? I mean, were you expecting that?
I wasn't expecting it, to be honest, but it is very handy that it's there. I mean, I still think the advanced payroll has got a lot of advantages over standard. I mean, from an employee point of view, it's going to be extremely handy that the employee can basically update probably their name and address through the portal and check their pay slips, check their P60s. So there are certain things that that we'd have in the advanced payroll, like actually putting an expense claim through. That's not going to be a feature that's in standard because you don't have expenses, a different portal. Possibly the detailed recording of hours where you can actually log in through advanced payroll and just press start to start recording your time and stop to finish recording your time. So that's probably something that you'd still need in the advanced area.
Yeah, I know what you're saying about there's still quite a few advantages of the advanced payroll, but for me, the reason I went over was the portal and HR.
Yeah.
Both of them are now coming to standard, but yeah, there is definitely still enough there to kind of meat on the bone, if you like. But I suppose it's really the advanced payroll is really going to be pushing for those kind of higher up in terms of the payroll needs, isn't it, going forward?
Yeah, I think just sort of sticking with payroll for just a minute, the only reason why, the main reason why I would go into advanced over standard is just the flexibility on mapping your chart of account codes, which you don't get on standard, because you can really be quite granular on how you want those coded over.
And you get departments and everything, I suppose, as well.
If you want class tracking, yeah.
Definitely. And the automatic tax codes updates fail. I couldn't believe that. Well, it's my fault for not properly checking the software, but I completely forgot that sort of thing that's not standard on every payroll now. So it's just good that that's coming in.
If you're already using the advanced, it's not a feature that you actually have to think about switching on because it sort of just happens.
Oh, is it in advanced payroll?
Yeah, so it's already in advanced payroll. It's been in there since day one. And as soon as you connect an EPS report, it should start doing it in the background for you automatically. It's not something you need to sort of worry about finding a switch for. It just happens like magic.
Standard payroll. There we are. User error. Brilliant. Okay, so that makes more sense. Construction tax. We knew again this was on its way. I was under the impression it was supposed to be part of the spring product release, but for various reasons, it's probably been pushed back. So basically, we're just excited really for this one to come in. The idea that basically you can then start filing your CIS directly through QuickBooks. So it's a no-brainer really for that product, is it?
Yeah, it seems like I've been waiting forever for this to happen, but it can't happen soon enough, really. And I think there might be some additional features in there, just the way that the tax reconciles, similar to VAT. I think that's a feature that's sort of coming in as well. So if that's there, so then it will round it off nicely. So you shouldn't get any sort of unreconciled CIS, entries if it's sort of, closing a period off once it's filed, that sort of thing. I believe, anyway, is on the way.
Brilliant. And then finally, accountants. We're going to get those month-end reviews that I spoke about last QuickBooks Labs, and made-to-measure reporting, which we've kind of seen soft launch, if you like. There's some elements to the reporting that's been changed, but they are looking to put some more improvements in there as well.
So what's a bit more on the monthly review? Can you sort of give us a bit more on that?
Yeah, they haven't given the splash page on it yet, but the idea here, and I've seen it in the American QuickBooks, it might have been QuickBooks Connect or one of the ones where they were kind of going through it there. So effectively, it's going to be the idea of having the ability to have that month-end review, a lot like Smart Scan. So it's going to bring that Smart Scan facility of actually going through and reviewing and telling you what's going to go, and that's going to come into the main overview section. So the idea then is you've got a client and you've gone through the month end, you get to go through and check that everything's okay. So it's going to kind of expand on overview and give you more. One interesting thing they were talking about though was almost like gamification of QuickBooks or your QuickBooks file to a point. So the idea there is that you're going to get a score out of 10 or 50, whatever the figure is, to say basically how well or how your data's looking or how well you're utilizing the data. So if you've got loads of rules, if you've got those automations, you got those sort of things, it's going to be there. So, it's going to be a positive definitely coming forward in terms of giving us some extra bits.
I think on that, if I just come in on that, I think one of the things that Xero have done really well is Xavier. Well, it's not Xero, it's just the connection between Xavier and Xero. And if QuickBooks can try and replicate something like that, which it sounds like that is sort of what it is, then that will be really good for people, because otherwise I think you're really only options for analysis at the minute are Silverfin and potentially if when Xavier do their QuickBooks connection, they'll have that as well. But that sounds really interesting. I've not seen that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ron, because we sort of touched upon Xavier in the last episode that we had, and we sort of looked on the release when Xero had just purchased it, and I've always said the same thing. There was a note in there, Xavier working on the QuickBooks connection, but will people really need it if these sort of monthly review features are coming in, where it's sort of pointing out, have you put things in the right place and have you made the most use of that particular feature? So it's quite an interesting topic.
Is this for a specific client, or are you looking across your firm here, analysis in terms of the review?
Yeah, it seems to be that it's going directly into the overview section. So in each individual client, you'll have the option to go into overview, monthly, streamline reviews from there. So yeah, it seems like that's where it's going to be. But that doesn't stop it then having the opportunity to go QBOA, because I can't remember the last time QBOA had an update. So it seems a bit neglected at the moment. So you would have thought at some point they're going to push something there as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those, we were chatting about this the other day, what we, Aaron, was how much investment goes into updating QBOA. It depends on, I suppose, how much accountants are actually using it, because if loads of firms are using different apps like Accountancy Manager and this, that, and the other to do their day-to-day sort of management of their clients, if the accountancy firm is not using it and neglecting it, not using work, and I'm guessing that Intuit must be able to monitor how much time an accountant is spending in that particular area of the product, I'd be surprised if they didn't have those tools. Then I suppose it just depends on, will they bother putting much more stuff in there? I suppose that's the main thing, isn't it?
In the US, I think I saw that the carbon integration is now kind of what is the practice solution for work for the American region. And I think that they probably realize that their practice management solution isn't good enough, and they don't want to spend the time and investment making it better.
Yeah, I agree, Rowan. And the thing is, as someone that's sort of quite new to developing apps myself, is that you can never please everybody. So Intuit could spend ages trying to, they'd listen to 100 people, thinking, actually, we'll design it in such and such a way, and it does this and does something else. And then another 100 people come along and want something completely different. So those 100 people want something that's in Accountancy Manager. Those other 100 people want the features that are in Tax Calc. So they're just as easy for you. So you go and use that, and you go and use that. We'll just leave the simple stuff as it is.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that as well, haven't we? Because they have gone and they've bought T-Sheets, for example. They've had that kind of acquisition stage, so they're not afraid to kind of go do that. So yeah, they'll definitely. I suppose it's watch this space really on that one, isn't it? In terms of everything else. And then the only other bit of news to bring in was just keep an eye on your QuickBooks files, because there's going to be some changes regarding the terminology going forward. So as accountants, we get a choice between, do we want to see a client view and a accountant's view? But from the client's view, they're going to have a more simplified way of talking about things. So, for example, the banking screen is going to have different terminology and things like that. So, again, I suppose it's pushing the fact that they're trying to make sure that from the end user point of view, it's going to be utilized and shown the best way. But for accountants, we're going to still have that familiarity if we need it. So, yeah, it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I did notice that the other day, and one of the other things that something like the where it says employees, that's going to be renamed to payroll, which makes sense. I did sort of wonder though about the different view, accounting view or business, and I sort of thought, well, if I'm logged in as an accountant, why would I need any other view than the accountant view? I'm not quite sure on that one, but maybe I might be surprised when it happens.
I can imagine that's for training purposes, isn't it? So if you've got a client ringing up and asking you, how do I do X, Y, Z? The ability for you to see what they can see is going to be useful, isn't it? Because if you're telling them to press employees and theirs is payroll, that's probably why that feature's there. But yeah, it's one of those.
Good point. So if you are doing some training, screen sharing, there's no confusion of what your screen is and what their screen is. That does make sense.
Yeah, cool.
That sounds like a really, really useful thing that they're doing there with the terminology. I remember so many times of training a client and you tell them one way and it doesn't make sense on the screen and they forget because you're trying to ask them, this is what you do when you get a refund from a supplier. And of course, on the banking screen, there's no button that says refund. So it goes in as another sale. The amount of times that happened. And it's just a simple fix with the wording.
Yeah, completely right. And they've got a big initiative for that now, a big push for it. So yeah, it's good thing all around. So fantastic. Brilliant, Ash. What is next on the agenda?
Right, so I believe now we need to have an in-depth chat with Rowan. So Rowan, again, thank you very much for joining us on today's session. And before we sort of start talking all, apps advisory, how about just give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Rowan and I'm Operations Director for App Advisory Plus. I've been in the role now about 9 months, which seems like it's been much longer than that. The times actually, it's gone really, really quickly. Before that, I worked in practice for a firm called PJCO, based near Brighton. That 100% QuickBooks firm, and I worked there for around 2 to 3 years while I was doing my ACCA training, and my sole focus really was around QuickBooks Online, onboarding people, internal change for practice management, and internal sort of systems, mainly around onboarding and kind of client service delivery. But I also trained clients how to use QuickBooks, supported them on QuickBooks, as well as apps. And really that's how I kind of got into the apps side of it. There's a big opportunity really there. Still, I think for accountants to take on a role as an advisor for technology, as well as the account side of things.
Cool. So really sort of getting into the, trying to get things automated as much as possible and, creating nice workflows, making things generally easier for you, and your clients basically.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's natural that if you're going into a client and you're setting them up in QuickBooks and probably a receipt and invoice processing app like Receipt Bank or Auto Entry or like it, whichever you use, if you're putting in these kind of apps and it's streamlining their workflows from an admin or finance perspective, I think it's natural that the client then comes to you and says, oh, I'm really having this problem with X that I'm doing in my operations, and how do you think I go about solving that? And if you can offer advice around that and it's good, then you end up with a client that's got a deeper relationship with you, so they're less likely to move on because they don't want to commit their time to someone else having to learn all those systems.
Yeah.
And I think that leads to higher client value in the end because you're delivering a higher service, and it's going to keep those fees at least a consistent level and then increase revenue opportunities through the add-ons that you're going to provide.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. So, I mean, how did you sort of get involved with apps advisory after sort of starting off, your sort of accountancy career, and then you got involved with Will and the gang at Apps Advisory?
Yeah, so I'm from Norwich originally, and with being based down in Brighton, it was a time that I just wanted to move back to Norwich effectively, and for a while I kind of tried to do that with bits of remote working, and I was actually commuting a little bit, but that it turned out that I just needed to move back here, and that's kind of how I reached out to Will, and at the time he was setting up App Advisory Plus, and there was an opportunity for me to get involved in that, so that's what I went and done.
So just great timing. So
yeah,
just like one of those,
more than anything. Time really more than anything.
Yeah, so it's just one of them things. Sometimes it's just meant to be, isn't it? And things just slide into place. Yeah, just so okay. So give us a little. So what is Apps Advisory Plus? What's it all about?
So the idea behind App Advisory Plus is to transform accounting practices through the use of cloud-based apps, and be able to offer them a support so that they can come to someone and get advice on not only apps to use in their practice, but also apps for their clients. So it's a synergy really of somewhere to go and find apps for your practice and for your clients, and then also get advice on which apps are going to fit the best, what processes to put in place to actually deliver app advisory services. And actually that's a really important part, because even though you might want the client to start asking you questions about technology, if you haven't got the process in place behind that to actually offer that as a service, what we're finding is a lot of firms are just kind of losing money on that effectively. They're committing themselves to go and doing the research, which can be extensive, and then not charging for it.
I fully see where you're coming from, because as we were having a chat before, just before we sort of went on air, when myself and Aaron used to sort of test a few apps. And, even if you want to look at a fairly basic app, to get any sort of real feel for how it works, you can spend hours on it, and you still can be really no further forward. You might sort of look at different things, try to reach out to their support, try to download it, test it, use the trial. So if a client, I guess, comes to you and says, oh, we need to start really tracking the stock, and this could be like 4 or 5 different sort of leading stock apps, you think, well, actually, which one am I going to have to look at and spend all of that time looking into? And they can all work so differently. So it does make sense to me, instead of me spending 6 hours trying to look at how one app works, if I can just drop an email to someone that's already done all of that legwork, and says, my client has got these requirements, can you point me to the nearest one and some background? That seems to make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and it's also even just coming and saying, like, I've had this question, like, what do I do next? So often the clients come to you and probably they haven't told you the full story. They've told you that something doesn't work, or there's a problem somewhere, but actually you need to understand that problem in terms of all of the process that's going on around it, to actually get the full list of requirements down and then do some research.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to ask you, so I mean, so Apps Advisory Plus, and we'll come to that. You can you'll be able to sort of share your screen and take us, through. I mean, is it just for accountants, or can anyone log in and take a look around? So if you've got the business owner down the road who thinks, actually, I'll just come to you direct and have a look, can they do that, or is it just for the accountancy practices?
We're completely aimed at accountancy practices and bookkeepers, but there's nothing to stop someone coming and creating a free account and having a look on our directory for apps, and some of the information will be things that they're looking for as well. But we have aimed it at accountants, and specifically we only have apps really on the site which have integrations with key accounting platforms, so QuickBooks, Xero, Sage, Free Agent. We're software agnostic, so we're looking at the moment at getting what we believe are the best apps, or we've been in the app community are rated highly, and moving them into the site, getting reviews on there, getting content that will help people to understand how they work and how the integrations work. That's the key difference from us and say it's something like a Get app or Capterra, which is much more broad. We're heavily focused on helping accountants find the best apps for them and their clients. We've really quite one of the things that we've built in is, say, comparisons, and the comparisons that we've got are detailed and relevant to the kind of features that the accountant is going to be looking at.
That sounds great. That sounds really, really useful. So do you want to sort of take us through a little bit of your site?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share my screen if I can, and then I'll take you through the site.
All right, excellent. Thanks.
So actually, we've just last week done a complete relaunch of the site. So we've got a fresh look, really easy to navigate now and find the area of the site that you're looking at. One of the key things that we've done is change the way that our help and support aspect of the site works. And Aaron actually mentioned that QuickBooks were looking to add in something called gamification potentially into their platform, and that's exactly what we've done into ours. We know that accountants and bookkeepers, your time is valuable, and we want to reward you for engaging with our site by recognizing that time. So if you go onto our site and you say leave a review for one of your favorite apps, or even an app which you've used which didn't quite work as you'd expected it to, we'll give you some points, and then you build up those points and you can exchange them in for consultancy time and support with us. So we've got various ways that you can earn points. Like I said, leaving a review for an app. We've got an app advisory community here where you can go in, ask a question to other users, view answers that or questions that have already been posted, and if you engage and reply to one of those as well, we'll give you some points for engaging like that as well. We've got an area in the My Account section of the site which allows you to complete your firm's profile. That takes around 10 minutes to do, and gives us some information on kind of the apps that you're looking for, and what the state is of your software kind of stack at the moment, and that helps us to identify where we should be focusing our attention on doing reviews, and what kind of content that we should be producing. So you get 10 points for that, and you also get some points for referring new users to the site with your unique URL. As well as we've got just points for signing up. So you register an account, 5 app advisory plus points there. So that's kind of unique in terms of app directories and app stacks. And the idea of it is to create this community where people want to come and engage with us about apps.
Yeah, definitely, because it seems that you're just getting more learning, people learning from others. You pop something on there, you ask a question, someone answers it, but extremely in a useful place where dedicated to the particular apps that what someone's looking into.
Exactly. The whole idea is people can ask us questions through this form that I'm just showing you here. And if this is something that we think is going to be useful for other people to see, we might put that into a support article and then add that into our knowledge base area, which has we're building this out. We've got information on app advisory processes, app categories, and industry sectors, as well as specific app articles, and these might be quick links to the app's site, but also more detailed kind of how this integration works and how it works with this app and this app, not just the accounting platform.
Yeah.
So those are, yeah.
It looks amazing. From your point of view though, do you see accountants wise, do you see that there's many of them that are really pushing apps for their own practice as opposed to just apps for clients? Is there any that you would recommend as kind of go-to apps that you'd always go for accountants for their practice?
My view is to start with your practice. I think you have to have a good system in place for managing jobs and managing communications within your practice. I think that's the start of everything for me. You can't really easily put in place the app advisory processes that you need if you haven't got a good system of managing jobs to start with. And even if you're having lots of new leads coming through your practice, you'll also need kind of a system for managing those, managing the questions that you get asked. That's really critical, I think, for delivering app advisory services. The other apps that are really no-brainers for accountants from my perspective are the receipt and invoice processing apps. Anything that's going to help you get data into the accounting system better. So we talked about iZettle earlier. If you've got a cafe as a client or a restaurant as a client, and they're having to manually upload their data of takings in every day, then that's just something unnecessary that they don't have to do. So and all of those kind of apps that get the data in really efficiently and accurately, that then allows you to have a really good, accurate bookkeeping system that you can then provide advice out of the other end. So yeah, the data in apps, practice management, those are the kind of go-to ones that I would say that those are your base. Get them in place first.
Cool. And then one final question about accountants though. For you, because obviously now from a client's point of view, they're picking what bookkeeping solutions best for them. So they're trying to find whatever's for them. And as accountants, to a point, we're trying to make sure that we are supporting what our clients would need. So from your point of view, would you say there's any kind of any way in which you can safely manage all the different types of bookkeeping solutions and everything else all in one place? Is there anything you could recommend for that?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the size of your firm and your objectives. I think larger firms, naturally, they're going to probably have to work with what the client asks for to an extent. And as long as you've got people in place that understand the bookkeeping systems, then that's fine. For a smaller practice, the benefits for me of really focusing in on one are clear in terms of everyone knows what they're doing on that platform, how to get data out of it for other things, and how to use the platform for providing the core accounting services. In terms of managing them all, if you're using multiple platforms, depends on really what you're trying to do with the management there. If you're looking at trying to analyze your portfolio of clients across different softwares, and then provide advice based on that, or help you to understand segmentation a little bit better in your firm, then something like Silverfin would be very good. I think that would also then kind of lead into producing your accounts as well. So that would be an app that I'd recommend there. For that kind of thing, I think we touched on this a little bit earlier with Xavier. analytics. Once they've got more integrations, then that will become a powerful tool for that as well.
Brilliant.
Okay, cool. So the you've got the accountants looking at how they can sort of manage their practice, and then again it's then when that accountant is approached by one of their clients that has some specific niche requirements maybe, and then that's when they need to sort of think, well, actually, how can I improve the way that my client works, because they seem to be doing a hell of a lot of work, but actually their business model is fairly simple. Is there any way in which I can just try to automate some of the things that they do, even if it could be anything, and then they can sort of reach out to you. It could be a dental practice, it could be a farm, it could be anything like that, and they could then come onto your site, drop a question through to say, I've got this client that does X, Y, Z, seems to spend actually ages doing ABC. Can you recommend anything that might make his day-to-day work a little bit easier? And that's
that's exactly that. So we've tried also to build some of that into this tool that you're seeing now called the App Stack Builder, which is effectively a really good searching tool for you to go through in the first instance to see if there's something that we've already kind of built into our recommendations here. So what we have is more sectors than the Xero and QuickBooks marketplaces do have, and we've also got kind of business cases here as well. So if I clicked on hospitality there, and we're building these out as we go, I've got a specific business case here for pubs, bars, and restaurants, say. And as you go forward here, you can choose, like, say you're using QuickBooks, and then it's going to come up with the categories of apps that you're looking at and kind of some app suggestions there for you as well. So that's a good place for you to go and start doing some research. But then, of course, if you need some more help of understanding how all of that works together, then you can drop a message to us on our help desk as well.
Cool. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, we'll be building out the business cases for different sorts of industries, so that there's options here, and these are things that we've kind of reviewed ourselves as well. So we'll have to live by our recommendations there.
Yeah. Excellent.
And I think that's the perfect way of doing it with the app stack. I think that's going to be, because I know from our firm, we've tried to make app specialist, if you like, within the firm, and tried to be like, oh, speak to this person, they'll be able to deal with all the app related stuff. But there's so many different apps out there for so many different sectors that actually, if you get this right with this app stack, then you can create different app stacks for different sectors and everything else within your firm that you can then push. And I think that's going to be a really good way of kind of teaching your staff, if you like, more, or at least giving your staff the ability to see all the apps out there and kind of the integrations and stuff. I think that's going to be a really good way of kind of pushing it forward. So I can definitely see a benefit in that.
That's exactly what we're trying to do with this, really, is and we've got some more in the pipeline for development on this, including a reporting tool. But once you've actually got a stack in place, you can share it with your team, and actually as a team owner, you can share it with the team, or someone in the team can share it with other team members without them being able to edit it. So there's kind of like a little bit of approval workflow in there already, so that you'll be able to select favorites as a team owner as well. So these are the apps that we know work for the practice, or these are the apps we're going to recommend, and so that people don't start kind of straying out of that stack that you've got in place, and spending research time which isn't going to be useful for other clients, for instance, without them paying for it.
That's right. I think you might have sort of touched upon that, and I'm not just thinking about it, is that would an accountancy firm, like Aaron's firm, for example, would he have a login for that practice, or would he have his own login for him? And let's say, one of his bookkeepers that works for him, would they have their own login? Is that?
Yeah, that's how it will work. So Aaron would have his own login. He'd be the team owner. Any team members that come into that team, they can view everything as part of the team. So Aaron could build out some stacks for different industries, and then they can come in here, see what the stack is. And you've also got the option here to go to the app page, learn a little bit more about it and what it does as well. And that in that way, I think you can kind of control a little bit more about what research is getting done in the firm, and hopefully this is a good way of if someone else is doing that research outside of yourself, you're recording it down in a way which perhaps a lot of the research that goes on at the moment and kind of the advice that goes in around apps is probably a lot of it is captured in email, and that doesn't make it usable for other people. So one of the things that we'll be putting in here is a note section. So if you're just building this stack out and you've got notes around things, you'll be able to enter those here. They get recorded down, and then they're usable by other people. So you're actually capturing things, whether they're right or wrong. You're capturing information to make sure that it's not kind of lost in the email.
Yeah, that's really useful, because you could look at one app and then stick a note and say, this is okay, but don't use it if your client has that particular thing, because it's not really for them. That's really useful. Yeah,
that's the idea that we're trying to get to with this. So yeah, this is our early stages of this app stack really, but we think it's still really good and different to what's out there at the moment. But obviously we need more people to come on and start supporting us, telling us what it needs to do differently that we haven't thought of yet as well, so that we can improve it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think it's great. I think we ought to go through some questions, Aaron, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. Let's see what they're doing. But I've got to say as well, I'm absolutely really impressed with it. I think that's it's one of those things, until you get told about it, you don't see the kind of, or you don't really think you need it. But now, I can't really understand any accounting firm out there that shouldn't actually at least consider it. So definitely.
To me, it seems a no-brainer. I mean, it's I'm not really in the accountancy sort of business so much anymore, because I'm sort of focusing on on app development. Before, it was just me on my own. I was a sole practitioner. So yes, if I spent time, that's just that's my own time. If I want to do it at 10 o'clock in the evening, but if I'm if I was a firm like Aaron's firm, if I'm employing 10, 20 people, do I want one of my employees to spend 5 hours researching something which could result in a return of nothing, when they should have actually been preparing someone's accountants?
And even if it hasn't produced something useful, you've probably also lost the research to their head.
Yes.
Rather than somewhere stored that you can access again to make sure that no one else spends 5 hours doing it.
Absolutely right. Yeah, because you can do it, and then, or they just they get pulled from one project to another because someone rushes in and says, "No, we need those accounts done ASAP." And then someone else starts looking at it, and then you've got two people that have just wasted 5 hours researching something.
Yeah. And I think also accountants have to really embrace it as well, because I know I've spoke to a lot of kind of accountants and practice managers, not so much in the worlds that we kind of go in the QuickBooks world and everything, but if you kind of go to anyone outside of that who is still trying to fight against it, then their view is that, these things are automated and they're going to steal my jobs, and they see it as a negative, don't they, that these apps are there to kind of come in and automate things. But ultimately, the truth of the matter is that as accountants, we're going to now be kind of judged on our business advisory role as opposed to our statutory requirement role, because every accountant should be able to statutorily put a set of accounts out. So this tool here gives you a step up in offering that business advisory role, because it's all at your fingertips and you can kind of be really quick at advising clients and you can give them that opportunity. So I think it's going to be invaluable for accountants moving forward. Yeah,
we really hope so, and I think you're right in terms of some people will resist, but actually you're completely right that we're going to get judged as accountants on the advice that we give, not can you do the accounts, because everyone should be able to do that. Everyone should be able to do a VAT return as a general practice accountant. It's the advice that is going to be valuable for people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, when I first got involved with QuickBooks, in my head, I was sort of started to think, 10, 15 years time, creating, statutory accounts is going to be basically a button press. So, and we're leading that way now. When you think we've got making tax digital for VAT, there'll be come a time when it'll be making tax digital for corporation tax, for self-assessment, and you'll need the accountant to be able to give that advice to make sure things are in the right places. But actually, the filing of the tax return is going to be not, it shouldn't be this is something to do at the end of the year. This is going to be something that happens all year long. Yeah. And if the accountancy firm is not, au fait with all of the automation that can be, that they can take advantage of, then I think those clients will end up going to someone that will help them with all the automation, because they just need that assistance, that guidance, and the accountant is there, like we've said before. And it's people have been talking about it for, it seems like forever. That advisory, I mean, it's in the name, isn't it? Apps advisory, in that advisory role as the accountant, just to make sure they keep them on the straight and narrow. Filing of the accounts is going to, be a quick job at one point.
Yeah, and if you can offer this around it, then you're going to have greater client stickiness there. Yeah. So even if someone could say, because of the automation, offer their accounts fee lower than what you're doing, is someone going to leave if you understand how their operational side of the business works and you can advise them on that? Probably not. They'll probably pay the premium for the accounts and you'll make more on them. But they're not going to leave because they understand that how to help them run their business.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because if you've got as the accountant, if you've got a good understanding of what they do on a day-to-day basis, it always just feels like you care. You have sort of invested a bit of time on learning. Because if it's just a case of the old-fashioned, I don't know, a backup used to come in, someone pulls up a report from whatever software it is, they look at a trial balance and they've got sales, purchases. There isn't that much thought apart from what's in the profit and loss, unless something looks a little bit odd based on last year. Compared to last year, it was the old thing. Compared to last year, it looks the same, so it's pretty much going to be okay. But there's not been that much more thought into it than that. Perhaps I'm being a bit harsh, I don't know. But
and also probably that advice that you're giving there is outdated anyway, because
exactly, yeah.
9 months old. So actually it might have completely changed by then, and people need advice before things happen to stop them getting worse or to help them get better, not what's happened before. And that's where the analysis tools are going to really be key. And I mentioned Silverfin and Xavier. I think those analysis tools, you can spot the problems for a client and do early interventions. And really looking at those problems, you can identify apps which are going to be a solution.
Absolutely. We better get on to those questions, Aaron, because we might run slightly over by sort of 5 minutes.
So everyone, remember, if you have got questions, then put them into the question box in the right-hand side or whatever platform you're using. If you are listening to this back at a later date, do remember that if you do have any questions, then the best thing to do is join us live at 2 o'clock, or 4 o'clock, should I say, on a Tuesday every fortnight. So the first question that came in was from Charlie Khan, and he says, Aaron, you say that you've installed iZettle for a number of cafes. what till software did you use? Does iZettle offer its own till software that tracks orders, etc., or do you integrate with something like Good Till? It's a great question, and I've done a bit of both, to be honest with you. So from my point of view, I like Good Till system. I think it's a great integration, and the nice thing about that is it does have, as Ronan said, it does have the application of going to QuickBooks, so it makes your life easier. But iZettle itself has a very capable EPOS solution that's just built directly in its app. So, and there is actually an add-on for it that's designed for the cafe and restaurant solution. So it's all about making sure that you've got tables and everything else, and you've got quite a lot of settings to go in there that can give you a really nice solutions for the smallest of small cafe. The ones we have, we've gone all from kind of just the simple one iPad solution where they can say what table number it is and they can add to the order and take the order off and all that sort of jazz, to a more sophisticated solution, not quite using Good Till, but we've got a different app that we look at, and they can have it so that when they put an order through, it prints out in the kitchen to what that order is going to be. But it is all based around iZettle is one of the platforms we use in terms of getting that payment in. So, but there's other ones around. There's iZettle, there's Square, there's a whole thing, and this is exactly where I think Ronan brings that advice and that kind of point to, because it's a minefield out there in terms of what solutions there is in EPOS and everything else, and it's, you know, you do need to kind of think what's best for that particular client.
Yeah, and actually around that, like getting a good fact find in the first place with the client to find out what is really important to them as a feature, and then going off and seeing what's useful. I think that's probably the way around to do it. And you can the integrations, you hope that they're going to be pretty good. Definitely the Good Till one is good. I know the iZettle one is looks good as well. They do sometimes work differently, but it's about getting those requirements set.
And I think hardware's got something to do with it as well, hasn't it? Because some of them work natively on an iPad, others you have to get the software or the hardware they provide. But you know, you've got that option, and that's the most important thing at the moment. Is clients have got so many options and so many choices out there that, you know, it just gives them that thing. And as your kind of website proves, there's so many choices out there that you've just got to kind of evaluate and go from there. Brilliant. Okay, James Harlow was the next one. Hi guys, what business do you see benefiting most from NetTracker app? So I think that
so I'll take that one. Yeah, so it's primarily designed for accountants to help their clients monitor their fixed assets. So basically things like machinery that's on their balance sheet, it gets written off over a length of time, write off the value, depreciate it, and it does it automatically. So mainly accountants, but if a business has its own internal accountant and they want to do monthly management reports and that sort of thing, then they may want to use it themselves. So for any business, but primarily for accountants, it also just helps to automate a lot of the year-end, entries that you might need to make. Basically, it eliminates a lot of the stuff that you might need to do at the end of year. So that's it in a nutshell. We'll move on to the next one. We hope that one helps.
Okay, Kirsty Dixon asks, could both me and my partner use QuickBooks app at the same time? Would like to use the same account and login if possible. With this question here, I'm pretty sure we've answered this one before. Rings a bell.
Yeah, I wouldn't have the same login. I would ask myself, why would you have the same login? That's always a big no-no in the back of my head, having the same login. I mean, there's nothing to stop you both logging in at the same time, but I think it can sometimes cause a bit of it may cause a slight glitch if you're both using the same name as you're logged in.
Yeah, and I think people may we'll go for it. What was that, Ryan?
Oh, I was going to say that, I mean, if you're both using it, what if one of you does something wrong and you want someone to blame? Who are you going to blame?
Yeah. Especially if you and your partner as well, it could be even more of a thing. But yeah, I think one thing that people do forget is the fact that the way the QuickBooks model is, it doesn't matter how many users you add on up until you limit. You don't pay any more for additional users. So actually, you've got no reason not to just add some extra users there. There is that whole, depending if you're on Simple Start versus Essentials versus Plus, you can see how there's a limit to how many users you can get. But overall, if you're on the right platform and your right tier, should I say, then at that point, you might as well have the multiple users.
Yeah.
Next question was Jack Wheatley, but he's asked two of them. Are they pretty much? Yeah, here we go. Hi, can you recommend a point of sale app that I can link to my QuickBooks account? I currently do my books manually, and I think it would be easier if it was integrated. Thanks.
Go on, Rowan.
Yeah, so, well, the first thing I would say here is going back to that fact find. Actually, to start with, before we start giving recommendations out, you need to have a really good idea of what you're looking for in the software. So there are softwares that integrate for POS with QuickBooks Online, and that integration piece of it is important in terms of what's going to work or not. But then you need to look at, what do I actually want from my point of sale to do? There might be features and functionality such as inventory, which is in place in one, which is not in place in another. I think we've gone through obviously two options of iZettle and Good Till there, which do have integrations with Xero, but with QuickBooks, but they will have different features and functionality in the product itself. So you need to consider those things as well. So that my first step in the process would be get a list of requirements down and then go from there. Find out. I mean, you can even use our tool if you need to try and search for apps that will work like that. Or do your research through your accountant if they can help you with this, or you're looking at going to the app site, taking out trials and things. There's a whole process of research that you have to go through, I think, to get the right one. You might not get it right the first time, but getting the requirements down to start with means that if you're going to someone like us to get advice, we can advise you better because we understand what your problems are.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd say, because one thing you've got there is there's lots and lots of choice for the app. There's lots and lots of choice for this bookkeeping software, and there's lots of choice in terms of the integrations and how the integrations work. But I don't know if you've had the same issue, but the one thing you don't have choice on randomly is if you need a printer. For some reason, a printer is like the hardest bit to fix in the whole of that solution. You get like 3 or 4 options, and they're crazily priced for what they are. So yeah, I think that's the only thing that we've had as a bit of a stopgap to us, is make sure you've got the right hardware in place, and then
yeah, definitely, that's a good point.
Yeah, so yeah, if anyone can have a solution of what printers to use, or if they can find a way of making the printers work, I think they'll run to a gold mine there. Because yeah,
so there you go, Rowan. That's another tab. There's another tab on the app stack.
Yeah.
Hardware.
Brilliant. And then Nathan Hanley asks, "Hi, Rowan and Ash. I really like the sound of your apps. In the future, do you expect you'll ever be holding training sessions on how to use the apps efficiently?" Well, I suppose Ronan.
Yeah, I'll
sign.
For what we're looking at doing is, and I'm not sure whether you are an accountant or whether you're a business owner, but we're looking at developing ways that we can provide training and support to accountants specifically. So within our app support knowledge base, we've got kind of articles in there, and we're looking at building those into a training program with videos and support advice like that people can get on demand. And potentially we'll partner with some apps to go into detail about how you would use that efficiently with an accounting platform, say. So yes, that is kind of on our roadmap of things to do. But through our help desk support, we can do that on a one-to-one basis if we understand the app in enough detail, which we do for some, but for some others we have to go and use our contacts and do the research ourselves still, because there are just so many.
Ash?
Oh well, yeah, because it was to myself and Rowan. Yeah. Well, so Rowan, I'll answer the question really. I mean, I think that's moved to yourself and as well, Aaron. You know, will we on this program, will we be sort of demoing any apps and going to be training? And I guess we have mentioned this before, haven't we? So we've got the guy at Cashflow Frog that will hopefully come on at some point. So, and we'll reach out to some other app providers where we may get some apps on here and sort of do some little bit, interviews similar like we've had with Rowan, that will actually just take us through their particular app as well. But moving on from what Rowan said, if you are sort of looking at some of these apps yourself, you may find that if you look at their website, there could be some video tutorials and stuff already on there. I know on my own I've spent hours building stuff, and others may quite often have done the same thing.
I think one of the things I'd actually add to that as well is, if you're wanting to, I think that you take a step back from that, is if you do the research to start with, right, then naturally you'll find an app which fits better, and that will probably be your efficiency gains in there. There's a lot of efficiency to be gained in actually doing the research properly and not trying to jump ahead with an app because on the surface it looks okay. If you spend time in the research phase and do all that properly, then you'll get the efficiency gains. I think that's probably the process that I would follow with it.
I couldn't agree more. When I used to chat to people quite often when we were doing the QuickBooks training, even when their first app, if you like, was learning about QuickBooks, before they were thinking about receipt bank or auto entry, I think if you just, you can invest a few hours, even days. If you've got the time to invest a few days spending something, I don't mean a whole day at a time, but over the length of a month, you might have invested days. But moving forward, that time you've invested has now saved you weeks, within the space of a year. And that's how you sometimes need to look at it. Think, yes, I've got to spend this time now, but how much time am I going to save now I've got it in place? That's always part of it.
And I think also, the question there was asking kind of training sessions, and that sounds like quite a traditional way of training. But I think, not pulling the curtain back too much, but me and Ash have kind of gone through how training is kind of evolving, isn't it? It's going to be a whole different way. We're not going to have this kind of your traditional training in terms of a session where you turn up for a day and you do some. So I think everyone is going to be looking at different ways to train. And I think with the app ecosystem, that's going to be the place where they're going to get the most benefits out of these new ways of training and how the future is going to be in terms of training and everything else, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely the COVID has changed the way that people perceive how things can work, like training. Definitely.
Brilliant. And with that, I think we've got through our questions. The last one was just a hello to all of us. No questions, but listening and learning. Thank you very much, Ali. And with that then, Ash, what is up for the next one?
Well, in 2 weeks' time, hopefully I'm going to be in Tenerife, so I'm not planning to be here. So it may be a month from now, or 3 weeks from now, will be our next session. So we'll put that up on our Facebook page, QuickBooks Labs, when we've got this specific day and time. I'm still not 100% sure whether I will be going, because you never know. In a week's time, I might receive an email that tells me it's been cancelled. But hopefully not. I might actually get away this year anyway. So I'll just like to say, though, thank you very much, Rowan, for joining us on today's program. It's been a pleasure and very educational as well. I've learned quite a lot from it. So thanks again for joining us on that.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, I've really enjoyed being part of it.
Thanks, Rowan. And thanks to Aaron, of course, for running the show.
Brilliant, everyone. So with that, then I suppose just safe to say thank you very much again, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers, everyone.
Bye. Bye.